Welcome to another ThinkorSwim tutorial where today we're going to be covering some important charting tools that you should really know about. Now, the first one of those is actually the chart toolbar right up here at the top of my chart, which most people don't even know exists within here, let alone what it can actually do. So if we look at my toolbar up here, at the moment there are some buttons up here that you might not really care about. Like right here, I could access a trend line or a text note. Or if I clicked on the simple moving average button here, we can actually see on the chart. It might be a little hard to see, but I just added the 9-period SMA line. But what's really cool about that toolbar is that we can essentially make it do anything we want. So we could add time frame buttons up there if we want to quickly adjust the time frame of our chart. We could add study set buttons so we could quickly add or remove a bunch of different studies all at once. Or we could change the overall style of our chart as well, basically changing the appearance of the chart, the background color, or anything else we want to change. Now, before we get to all the different things it could do, in order for us to even add this toolbar to the top of our chart, we do need to come up here to the upper right-hand corner and click on the Chart Settings button. And then down here within this little menu, you can actually see down here below where it says My Tools, and it currently says On Each Chart. That's what you need to have selected in order to have this toolbar at the top. So for example, if I were to turn this off for just a second, you can see that that toolbar disappears. And unless you've changed something, that is the default setting. So the very first time you log into ThinkorSwim, or unless you add it later on, you will not see the toolbar up here. So for us to add it once again, we'll come back up here to the gear icon. We'll come down here below to the My Tools. And again, we're going to turn that on each chart. Then when we come down here below and hit OK, we can again see it up here at the top, but you'll notice actually over here on the left-hand side, mine is currently pinned. And the first time you do this, the first time you add this toolbar to the chart, it won't be pinned. So if I unpin that and I move my mouse away, you're actually going to see that toolbar disappear here in a second. So now that it's gone, if I want to see it again, I've got to go back up to that top section again, hover my mouse over it, and then if I want it to stay there all the time and not disappear when I move my mouse away like it just did, what we'll do is go ahead and pin that to the top. Again, that just means we want it to stay there, so when I move my mouse away, it's always going to be up there. And then in order for us to edit those buttons, so to edit what those buttons do, we're going to come over here to the far right-hand side and click on this little gear icon. What that does is open up this little tools menu here, and if I give that a little bit more space, what we can see there are the 3 buttons that I'm currently using. So here I've currently got the trend line, the text note, the simple moving average study, and then at the bottom we've got the ability to add new buttons if we wanted to add more. But let's just say we want to edit what these current buttons do. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the first one up here. And then over here on the right, I have the ability to either rename it if I want to, or I can come down here below and actually change what it does. So over here on the right, we do have the ability to add drawing tools or individual studies, whole study sets that we've created previously, or different time frames if we want to have time frame buttons up there. And let's actually say that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a 1-minute, 5-minute, and daily chart button up there at the top so I could just really quickly adjust the time frame. So we'll come over here to the left and we can see all of my current time frames here. And I'm going to go ahead and add the 1-minute button. Then I'm going to come up here to the second button and again change what this one does. This one's going to be my 5-minute button. And then finally, I'm going to change the final button here to my daily button. So now with those 3 buttons set, and we can see them up here at the top, I'm going to come down here below and hit done. And if we look up here now, we can now see those buttons that we just placed. And if I were to click on the 1-minute button, you can see my chart changes to a 1-day, 1-minute chart. If we click on the 5-minute button, I'm looking at a 5-minute chart. The daily button, I'm looking at a daily chart. But like I said before, we can essentially make those buttons do whatever we want them to do. So a lot of you out there watching might have a bunch of different study setups that you like to use. For example, maybe when you're day trading, you like to have the SMA lines with MACD and RSI. Or when you're looking at trading an option, maybe you like to look at implied volatility versus historical volatility. Maybe you want to see some labels showing IV rank or IV percentile. Whatever it is, you might have some study setups saved so you can quickly bounce back and forth between those and you don't have to set it up every single time. And if you do have something like that set up, so for example, I could always come up here to my studies menu in the upper right-hand corner. And let's say I wanted to use one of those. I could come down here below and load some of my previously made study sets. And if I look over here, one of them is called the SMA. So if I click on that, here you can see it quickly adds my 50-day, 200-day, and advanced volume bars down here at the bottom. But then if I wanted to flip to my options setup, we'll come back up here to studies, load study set, and this time click on option. You can see this one does have those same SMA lines, but it also has an IV rank label along with IV percentile. And down here at the bottom now, I've got implied volatility and historical volatility. So if I wanted to add those two study setups as buttons up here at the top to make that whole process so much quicker, we'll again come over here to the gear icon on the far right-hand side. And this time we're going to come down below and add a brand new button. It is going to be a study set. And this first one's going to be the SMA line setup. We can then see it does get added up here in our list of buttons. And I'm just going to add the next one up here as well. So again, a study set, but my options study set. And now that I'm happy with that, we'll again come up and hit done. And now I've got those buttons up here as well. And if I were to click on them, you can see it very quickly adjust my chart to reflect those study setups. And now if you want to see how I do that from the very beginning, so if we wanted to create a brand new study setup so you could see how we make it, save it, and then add it as a button, let's come up here to my studies icon again up here in the upper right-hand corner. We can then see all the studies that I'm currently using on this setup right here. And let's just go ahead and start over. So I'm going to come down here below and remove all of them. And for this new study set, what I want to have, again, just as an example, is going to be the exponential moving average line to begin with. We can see here it's the 9-day EMA by default. We'll go ahead and leave that be. And then I also want to add, let's say, the MACD indicator. So come down here and add that as well. And then finally, for this one, we'll add RSI. So now looking over here, I've added these 3 new indicators. And what I next need to do is go ahead and save that. Then I'm going to give it a name that I could actually remember. So for this one, I'm going to call it, let's just say MACD/RSI. And then once I come down here and hit save, it becomes a study set as well. And now if I want to add it to my toolbar up here at the top, we'll again come over here to the gear icon. We'll come over here to add a new button. It's again going to be a study set. And now we can see it over here on the right, my MACD RSI study set. And once I've added it and I hit done, that is now another button up here that I could quickly toggle to. So again, if we come over here to the option setup, there we go. I've got my SMA lines, my implied volatility, all the stuff I like to see when I'm trading options. But then when I come over here and flip it over to MACD RSI, I've now got the EMA line, my MACD, and my RSI. But again, these are just a few examples of things that you can do with this toolbar. So definitely play with that. Get it set up the way you like it, and I think it'll save you a lot of time. But let me take a moment to thank the sponsor of today's video, which is actually me. Over the past year, I built a trading journal called TraderLog, which was designed specifically for options traders. You can either upload your brokerage statements directly, and then those statements are automatically organized by spread type, or you can manually add the trades individually if you decide to. You can then quickly track your portfolio performance, analyze your returns by strategy, and in the end, hopefully make more informed trades moving forward. Also, it's not just for options. You can also use it to journal your stock, futures, forex, and crypto trades. So go ahead and check it out using the link below and use the code TraderLog50 for 50% off. Now, besides the charting toolbar, the next thing I think that is incredibly important for you to know that exists within here is the sidebar over here on the far right-hand side of each of your charts. Now, a lot of people don't even know that these windows don't actually have to be charts. So for example, if I came over here to my sidebar here and I see that chart is currently selected, if I were to click on that, I actually remove my chart. I don't even see the chart anymore. And now if I instead came down below and added an option chain, well, now I'm looking at an option chain for Intel. Or if I got rid of that, I could come down below and add level 2 data, take up my entire screen for that. Or we could use a mix of the two. So I've got the level 2 selected, but if I came up here and selected the chart again, now we've got a nice big chart on the top, level 2 data on the bottom. So just keep that in mind. These windows do not have to be charts. You can make them pretty much whatever you want, or at least you're limited to whatever the sidebar contains. And the other thing I'll mention, again, this is related to charts, we don't have to have these buttons go where they go by default. So for example, level 2, like we just opened up, will always go down here below the chart unless we specify otherwise. So if we didn't want level 2 on the bottom of the chart, maybe we actually just wanted it on the right-hand side. Or maybe we wanted to have one big chart on top and then the level 2 take up a small left portion of the chart, and then maybe an active trader on here as well, maybe time and sales. Whatever setup you wanted, we can do that. So if we came up here and first off, let's get rid of level 2 from this screen. And let's just say we did want level 2 on the right-hand side. So what we're going to do is come up here to the grid in the upper right-hand corner. And when we click on that, that'll give us all these little boxes down here, which are actually additional charts that we could add. So because we want level 2 on the right-hand side, we're going to go ahead and add a second window to the right of this one. We can see a brand new window appeared, and it does default to a chart. But we're going to first come up here and link this tool to the first one. So it's always the same symbol in both of these boxes. And now with that set, I'm actually going to start by coming over here and getting rid of the chart, and instead coming down below and adding level 2 data. And because I don't need so much space dedicated to level 2, I could actually squeeze this over a bit. And now I've got my big chart for Intel on the left, level 2 data on the right. And if I was to change this symbol to, let's say, Apple for a second, well, now I've got the Apple chart on the left, the Apple level 2 on the right. And then if this is going to be something that I use regularly, and I come back to this all the time, I would probably want to save this as a grid. So I'd probably come up here again to the little grid icon in the upper right-hand corner, come down below where it says Save Grid As, and I'm going to call this my level 2 setup. Accidentally hit the caps lock there. And then once we come down below and save it, if I go back up to that grid again, we can actually see it right here. So if anything ever happens and I want to go back to this chart setup with the chart on the left, level 2 on the right, I could always come here and click on it and it would reopen exactly how it is right now. And then later on, if I wanted this to be something else, so let's say I wanted it an option layout, I could always deselect level 2 here, add an option chain. For this one, since it is an option chain, I'll give it a little bit more space to work with here. And let me customize this just a little bit. And let's say this is going to be another setup that we like. Again, the chart on the left, option chain on the right. I could always come up here to the grid icon again, upper right-hand corner, save this one as a grid. This one I'll call my option layout. And again, hit save. Just like before, if we go back up to the grid up here, I now have both those setups right here saved on my screen. So if we wanted to quickly go back to the level 2 setup, we'll go ahead and click on that. We'll hit OK. And now I've got my level 2 setup. If we go back up to the grid again and I wanted to go to my option layout, when we click on that, and again, we hit OK over here, now I'm back to my option setup. So definitely take advantage of these grids if you do have a bunch of different chart setups that you like to use. Maybe you like a 6 chart setup, but then you want to hyper focus on a 1 chart view to really get a detailed look. Well, you might as well save that so you don't have to recreate it every single time. Or if you have a lot of chart setups where you like to change the study sets just on individual charts, take advantage of this toolbar and really set it up and customize it for you. Now, we could also just zoom in individually on a chart if we wanted to. So for example, if I wanted to just zoom in on this chart to get a nice detailed look, I could come up here to the menu icon in the upper right-hand corner and simply come down below and hit maximize cell, and that will zoom me in. And then if I wanted to go back to that 2-window setup that I had a second ago, I could always just come up here to the upper right-hand corner and hit that little back arrow. But again, all I did was hit the little menu icon, maximize cell to zoom in. Now this video is already getting a little long, but I wanted to point out a couple other chart settings that I think you might actually like or might actually want to edit on your side. One of those just being the ability to actually see your positions on the chart. So for example, if I owned any Apple or if I had any options on Apple, if I wanted to see those positions directly on the chart, I could always come up here to the chart settings icon. And then within this menu right here, if you look over here on the left where it currently says positions do not show, if we were to click on that and instead come down here below and toggle it to show all. So again, show my stock and my option positions. With that one selected, if I come down here and hit OK, right now I don't have any Apple in this account. But if I instead flipped it over to something I do have, let's say Intel, right here you can see this little green bubble going across my screen saying I currently have 100 shares that I bought for $52.50 a share. And if I had any options on Intel, whether those be calls or puts, long or short, I would also see them on the chart. Also, for those of you who might want to change the general appearance of the chart, so maybe change the color of the candlesticks or the background color of the chart, maybe get rid of the grid in the background, anything appearance-wise that you might want to change, we're going to pretty much go to the same place as before, the little chart settings up here, but this time we're going to come down here below to the appearance settings. So this right here is where we could change things like the color of the candlesticks. So if I wanted my green candles to instead be blue, I could always change that. Or if I wanted to add back the grid, so the little dots in the background, I could come down here and select grid. Or I could completely change the chart type from candles to a bar chart, or Heikin-Ashi, or an area chart. But again, this is where you can just change your general appearance settings, get it exactly how you like it, and then when we're done, we just come down here and hit OK to save it. For me, I want to discard all those changes I just made, so I'll come over here and hit cancel, but that's how we can change the overall appearance. And then finally, the very last thing I wanted to mention, that besides this charts page that we're on currently, which does allow us to add very symmetrical chart layouts, like up here, if I wanted to have two charts side by side, I could do this. If I wanted to have two charts on top, two on bottom, I could always click on this. But if I wanted to have one big chart on the top and let's say three little charts on the bottom, or I just wanted to have much more flexibility in terms of how I customize this layout, instead of using the charts tab up here, we could instead flip it over to the flexible grid. So we can see here, this one gives us a lot more flexibility in terms of where we place these windows. So currently you can see here, I've got three medium-sized charts on the bottom. I've got one taking up half the screen up here at the top, and then I've got kind of two small ones up here in the upper right-hand corner. But then if I wanted to adjust that in some way, I wanted to edit this, I could always come back up here to the grid icon in the upper right-hand corner, and this time come down below and check mark this box that says Customize Grid. That'll then add a little pop-up window in the center of each of these boxes here, which either allow us to add a chart below this one, to the right of this one, or just outright delete this chart. So for example, if I wanted to get rid of this one, I'll click on the square with the line through it. If I wanted to get rid of this one, we'll again click the square with the line through it. But then if I wanted to add a brand new chart down here at the bottom, let's say I wanted to add one to the right of this level 2 data. So we'll come here and click on the little plus sign in the middle. And now we've got four little charts down here at the bottom. Now, just like before, if you wanted to save this layout, so save your one big chart, four little chart layout, we could again come up here to the grid icon, upper right-hand corner, and just like before, we would save it. But I know that was a lot to go through in a short amount of time, but I would really use those tools to really customize your layout so you can navigate around as quickly as possible. Like I mentioned at the beginning, a lot of this is going to be based on you, based on how you trade and the setups you like to use. But take your time, customize it how you like, and then when you're interested in learning more, go ahead and check out this next video to learn some more helpful tools on ThinkorSwim, and I'll see you guys there.